Okay, so I got the closed captions on. Now we've got the recording. So I'm going to toss it to Todd, and he's going to talk about really the philosophy of how to make the most of your experience at Newton North. If you were here last week for our 8th grade elective open house, you will see the depth and breadth of programming that we offer here at North, which we also know can be overwhelming. But it's really exciting, and we really want students and families to take advantage of that full depth and breadth that North has to offer. And so Todd's going to kick us off with that piece.
Yeah, sure. So glad to be here. I think I'll start by just briefly, well, let me say a little bit like where I'm coming from. So I appreciate the very kind introduction, but I obviously, I represent the arts, but tonight I'm also very much representing our incredible career tech ed program. My colleague Kathleen Duff couldn't be here this evening, but as you know, North is a comprehensive high school and has this really, really wonderful career tech ed program that is in-house, along with, I hope, our wonderful fine and performing arts program and many other elective opportunities. So the lens that I kind of come through is that elective lens. But I have been at North for 15 years, and I think I understand the kind of movement of the school and what we're all about. So I'm going to start by sharing what I share with all the 8th graders. So I got to see all the 8th graders at both Bigelow and Day about a week or so ago. And what I shared with them as newcomers to the building is one, I encourage them to make sure to think about the aspects of school and the aspects of their lives that really drive them. Like, what are the things that you love to come to school and do and participate in? What are the things outside of school that you really love to participate in? And really think about that as you make your choices, especially in the elective world when you come to North. So one of the examples, I'm a musician, I'm a saxophone player. And so one of the examples that I use is, a student who has been really active as a musician, starting in elementary school or middle school, but they've been active through. This is an opportunity for a student to really realize kind of the full extent of their learning. They've been working all these years, and instead of saying, I've done that for a few years now, I'm going to try a bunch of different things, really to encourage those students to make the leap, get into the ensembles or the classes or whatever it is that they love to do, whether it's athletics, any of those things, to really realize it at the highest level. And I have found from my experience of many, many years at North and other schools is that when students do find, kind of identify the thing that they really love and get into that at the high school level, they tend to stick with it all the way through. And it tends to be a major part for them. And I also say, in a large way, it's like finding an instant family in this very large institution. You get into an ensemble or a class of like-minded students, and you immediately have a team of people, often from all 4 grades, that are there to support and work with you as you go. But on the very flip side of that, I also tell students, this is one of the last opportunities in life where you can really do anything and try out anything. I mean, you can largely, or somewhat, maybe in college or whatever comes career-wise or whatever, but North is this rare institution that has electives and opportunities, like it seemed like endless list of opportunities for students. Even in our own fine and performing arts department, we offer 55 different classes that a student could take over their 4 years. And so really to encourage students to make that leap and to try something new as well. And so I know I'm kind of talking out of both sides, but I do think it's an and. It's follow your passions and figure out the things that you haven't done. And I think for a lot of students, especially once they reach the secondary level of high school, they sometimes say, well, I'm not this and I'm not that, so therefore I won't take a class in that area. And, one of the things that I I say to parents and students all the time, and I'll say it tonight, is just to remind us all that we are a school and that this is where you learn how to do things. And so there's no expectation that every kid, every student comes to high school knowing a full breadth of subject matters. This is a place, again, to follow the places that you love and to say, you know what? I've always been curious to, do this or do that. I've never been on stage before. Maybe I'll try out for a show, or I don't have any knowledge of how to change a tire or do anything for my car, which I'll soon drive in a few years. Maybe I should take a, automotive exploratory or learn to cook or any of those things that we offer between career tech ed and fine performing arts and beyond. I think that's really important. So that's the big kind of message that I give to students. And then I'll say perhaps more for you all as parents and guardians and supporters is really what I've seen at North and what has taught me, and I hope that I've been part of as well, is that our programs really are designed in a way to kind of have an equal balance. And on one side of sometimes I use the analogy of like the scales of justice, right? Because one side checks the other side and they need to work in tandem to be truly excellent. So on one side, we have this commitment in our curriculum throughout the building to really focus on excellence, to make sure that we're providing students wherever they're at with the highest level programming that we can possibly create. And that means preparing students for university and college and career, and to do so and have them truly ready for whatever lies ahead for them. But I would argue that's only good if equally we have access points throughout our curriculum to make sure that students can try things and experiment and maybe find a new passion which they didn't even know existed until they gave it a shot. And so our programs really are designed like that, where we have this kind of duality of place. And one of the things I always love is the classes that I teach are all mixed level, which means I could have freshmen through high school or through seniors in there. And I love when a senior pops in to say a music technology class or something, and I'm getting to know them and I ask what their previous music knowledge may be, and they're like, none. I just thought this was kind of cool, and here I am. And I always think that's really great, because here you are pushing yourself to try something new and experiment. So that really is my mantra, and that's my charge for students, to follow their passions, try new things, and know that there's a place to be accessible along the way.
Thanks, Todd. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the logistics of course selection, but while I am talking, I just wanted to remind folks that there is a Q&A option in Zoom that hopefully is there. It tells me that you all can see it. So that if there are questions that you have for Todd about fine and performing arts or about career and technical education, that we can answer, you can feel free to start popping those questions in the Q&A, so that way he can kind of see them as they're coming in, so we'll be ready to answer them. And then if there are questions that you have for me, you'll be able to put those in there. And between Todd and I, we've done this evening together quite a long time, so we really can answer quite a range of questions about course selection. So obviously not individual, like my kid wants this course over that course, but really questions about North, what we offer, what our beliefs are, and kind of how it plays out. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the course selection process. Todd talked about why we should be thinking about both those courses that we're passionate about and those areas that we maybe haven't tried yet. And I'm going to talk about kind of what it looks like as we start putting that information pen to paper, although it's, into Aspen, not pen to paper anymore, in terms of what it looks like. So I'm going to share my screen so you can see a few things, much of which you've probably seen, but just to refresh our memory. Too many Zoom windows open here. I can't find anything. So these are my slides from our 8th grade families last week. Todd, can you see these? Are these popping up on your screen?
Yes, they are. It says
Okay.
resources on the NHS website.
Great, perfect. So just a reminder that all of our information about course registration is on the Newton North website. So if you go to academics and then course registration, you will find all of the information that you need as it becomes available. So for example, some of the directions and videos that you don't quite need yet, they're not posted yet, but everything that you do need right now in terms of directions, timeline, opportunities, those pieces are all there. There's a special area called NNHS Class of 2027 for our 8th grade families, but the information for our current Newton North families is under course registration. I will also address the students and families that are not currently NPS students in a moment. But right now I'm talking about the calendar and schedule of registration for our current NPS students, and that's our students in grades 8 through 11. So our course registration process in the spring has 4 steps. So first, which is where we are right now, teachers are talking to students and recommending courses. And this is actually a really exciting time of year here at North. If you walk the halls during class time, what you'll actually see is often 2 desks set up outside a classroom so that teachers can have individual conferences with students about course recommendations. So they might set up the class to be doing an activity in class. And then they'll pull students one at a time to have those really important conversations about what the student is looking for, what the student is interested in, and what courses they might be recommended for. And that process takes place in lots of disciplines, including the arts, including career and technical education, where our students do need recommendations to progress through the courses. And in the course catalog, in opportunities, you'll see an indication of which courses students can request themselves without a recommendation and which courses do require recommendations. And that, includes our leveled courses in math, English, science, history, and world language, but it also includes courses such as, moving from art major 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, or progressing through the career and technical education major program. We also have places where we need recommendations, for example, for our auditioned groups. Those also get recommendations from the teachers based on those auditions. Once those recommended courses are entered into Aspen, our teachers have until 5 o'clock next Tuesday, the 14th, to get those recommendations entered. We then here in the main office basically push a switch so that students and families can then view the recommended courses in Aspen, starting that evening at 5:30, approximately, depending on how long it takes us to kind of flip the switch and flip things over. And hopefully nothing that you'll view there will be a surprise. It should all be information that teachers have discussed with students, but it is an opportunity to see the full set of courses that have been recommended for a student. And then students have the opportunity to request their electives, those courses, including those courses that don't require a teacher recommendation. Students also will have the opportunity to use a Google form to make requests of changes. And that could include, a student, and we'll talk about this more, a student may have been recommended for a whole slate of honors classes and decides that maybe they don't want to take all the honors classes that they were recommended for. And so they want to request a move down in a course. That's something that can be requested via the Google form. Or perhaps a student was recommended for too many courses. Maybe a student is currently in culinary exploratory, and first semester they were in automotive exploratory, and both of those teachers think that the student could progress into the major. Sometimes students have too many recommended courses, and so they can use the Google form to make edits to those courses as well. So it's kind of a bimodal process there where students are adding their electives into Aspen and also using a Google form to make any edits that are necessary. The third step is where counselors review student course requests. So every counselor is asked to meet with every student on their caseload in grades 9 through 11 to review their full set of course requests and their full thinking about the courses they've been recommended for and how they're progressing towards graduation requirements. And those meetings take place between the 15th, so they start next week, through the end of March. And so earlier, back before February vacation, one of the things I advised students to do was to start thinking about meeting with their counselor. Counselors will be scheduling those meetings to meet with each of their students. And then they really have that opportunity to do any minor tweaks or cleanup that is necessary, so that the last step of our process is what we call verification, which is March 30th. That is the last day of our course request process for this year, Thursday, March 30th. And I included this reminder in my weekend update this past weekend about the really importance of this date, because as you know, we really use this information to determine our budget and staffing for the high schools. And also, as you know, our budget is really tight. We have both had an impact of having an increased number of students this year, more students than we were projected to have. We have about 30 more students than we were projected to have. Although honestly, that was the number back at least a month ago. I think we've registered maybe 6 new students in the last 2 weeks, students that are starting right now at North. So our numbers continue to climb. And then next year's incoming 9th grade class is very large. So our numbers here at North will be going up again. So those requests are really essential. They really help us decide exactly what courses to offer, exactly how many sections of each class. And so we need the information to be firm, which is why we say that those course requests all have to be final on March 30th. So in my little poll, I asked if you had read the welcome letter in opportunities. I can't stress this enough. It is really important that you read the introductory information in the course catalog. This paragraph, although when I copied and pasted it, it added weird bullets, but this paragraph on the screen actually shows up in the course catalog in multiple places because it's really important. And I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but I do want to emphasize that this process that we use does allow the majority of students to receive all of the courses that they request in the spring. Last spring, when we were running statistics on the data, over 96% of student requests were satisfied. So that's a very high percentage of course requests being satisfied for students. We work really hard to ensure that students are able to get the courses that they request. But that means on the flip side that we actually need students to take the courses they request, because we really don't have a lot of flexibility built into the courses that we offer, the number of sections that we offer, the class sizes. We also use those student requests to staff the building. We use that information to create as optimal class sizes as are possible within the budget that we have. And so we really are firm that after March 30th, students cannot make changes to their course requests. I will add one caveat, which is that teachers can make changes to their recommendations between March 30th and the end of the year. And so, for example, a student might be doing really well in the class, and the teacher may have made a particular recommendation for, say, an AP course for next year, and then the student stops coming to class 4th quarter. I know that's like a really extreme example, but the teacher could change their course recommendation. Or on the flip side, if a student was really borderline and the teacher just needed to see a little bit more work from the student to be able to make that recommendation for the AP course, the teacher can adjust their recommendation upward between March 30th and the end of the year as well. Because we know March 30th is pretty early, that we're making decisions pretty early in the year, and that's challenging. We have to do that because we do our staffing and budgeting based on course requests, but we do give teachers the opportunity to make adjustments as necessary. So I said I would touch on the non-NPS students, and this is actually non-NPS students of any grade. This was like I said, the information from our 8th grade families last week, but our students who are coming to us from other schools, even if you once upon a time were an NPS student and you're returning, your first step is to go to the NPS website registration page and use that online registration tool to register for Newton North. We will then be scheduling our spring registrations, which occur over Zoom with a school counselor. Those appointments will start later in March, and the courses are requested through that registration appointment. So the timeline is a little different. You don't follow the same timeline as our current students in NPS. I do often get questions about, well, are we at a disadvantage? When do we need to register? Should we register on the same timeline? And this is what I'll say for our non-NPS families. It's really important that you register as soon as possible so we have that data, and definitely by the middle of May. because by the end of May, we are loading students into classes. And that's when we start creating wait lists and figuring out which students may get their first choice elective and which students might not. And so if you are a non-NPS family, I would say that, to have your best shot at those elective choices, you're going to want to have had your registration appointment by the middle of May at the latest. Now, obviously, we're a public school, and if you live in Newton, we continue to accept registrations, like I said, straight through the school year. But the sooner the better, so that we have the information and that so your student can have that well-rounded schedule with those courses that they selected. Which brings us back to kind of where we started and where Todd started, which are these two statements that are also in opportunities. That we have a commitment to opportunity, access, and excellence. And these core values really sit at the center of this course registration process. And that it's really important that students are appropriately challenged and supported. And that challenge and support is both in terms of individual classes, as well as across a student's schedule. And those two pieces are really important to us, that we find the appropriate challenge and support for each student in each of their classes. And so you will hear about those kind of throughout the process. If you have a conversation with a teacher, you have a conversation with a school counselor, dean, special educator, department head, those are all important pieces for us. And these core values sit at the center of this entire process for us. So how are we doing on questions, Todd?
I answered one about, let me see if I can pull it up again, about would you say that some electives are easier for students with learning disabilities to participate in? Or would you say that all courses are open to students? My response was that from my lens in the arts, we work to assess where students are at when they enter our classes. Sometimes there's a real variety of skill sets that present themselves. And then we really work to support all students along that. One of the things that I say to all my students when I start my classes, which I said before have all 4 grades in them, I make a big deal that it doesn't matter to me where your starting point is, wherever your point A is. My job is to get a sense of who you are and what you know and where you want to go, and then figure out a way to help propel you down that line. So in my project-based classes, students may be doing very similar projects, but the words and the things that I'm trying to help them with may be different. Because some students, I'm a music teacher largely, some students come with a great big music background, and that's awesome and wonderful. And some have much less, and that's awesome and wonderful too. And so we really try to get a sense of where they're at and propel them down and make sure we're serving all camps to the best of our ability.
I also say from the career and technical education lens, we really work hard for our exploratory classes to be open to the full range of students. That being said, it's important to remember that these are really industry level spaces. And so sometimes we have students and families that don't really understand that we're talking about an industrial kitchen or cars up on lifts above the classroom space. And so students and families do need to understand that while those classes and spaces really are available to our full range of students, there are a lot of kind of safety checks along the way for students to be able to fully participate in those programs. So for example, in many of our programs, there are OSHA related safety assessments that are required before students are able to do those hands-on pieces, either in the kitchen or in the auto lab, carpentry, et cetera. And to Todd's point, we look at each student and figure out how to get them there. But it's important to say that they do have to kind of achieve those pieces, or like in culinary, they have to pass the serve safe assessments before they can serve food in the Tiger's Loft. So there are some bars that may be harder for some students than others, but we work really hard to get every student to those places. I also wanted to mention about the career and tech ed exploratory classes. Based on federal law, federal guidance for our Chapter 74 programs, those exploratory classes, we have to prioritize students in 9th and 10th grade. We can only enroll 11th or 12th graders if there are no 9th or 10th graders that want to take those seats in those classes. And I will tell you that this year, I think we might have a total of maybe like 5 juniors or seniors in an exploratory class across all of our programs. Those exploratory classes do fill with our students in 9th and 10th grade. So if your student does maybe have an interest, or, they've mentioned, wow, maybe I'm really interested in carpentry, it's really important that they get into those exploratory classes as early in their Newton North experience as possible, because we do legally have to prioritize those students in 9th and 10th grade. And sometimes we have students and families come to us coming into junior, senior year, and they really are surprised by that information. So we really try to make that as clear as possible, that we want to get them into those exploratory classes as soon as possible. So there's a question about counselors not meeting with students until mid-March. So counselors are meeting with students throughout this entire process. And it's true that students need to enter their elective requests into Aspen between the 15th and the 20th. That's really kind of the first stab. And I would say like a lot of adjustments take place between the 20th and the 30th. So we kind of just have to take the editing power away from the kids, because otherwise a counselor is going to look at information one day and then the kid's going to change it again, and the counselor is never going to feel like they're done with a kid. So we give kids a week to put in their information for their electives on top of the courses that were recommended by the teachers, but know that editing really does continue to happen through that entire process all the way through the 30th. And there's a lot of information that we gather around things like alternates that has to get collected during that time and added, and really making sure that students have everything that they need to progressing towards graduation. So I know it seems a little odd, but it really does work well throughout that entire month of March. I'll tell you, we used to do this in Todd will remember, we used to do this in like 2 weeks time. And the fact that we now launch registration before February vacation and take it all the way till the end of March, we're really trying to emphasize that conversation part and giving people time, teachers, students, and counselors to talk. There's a question about what if a teacher recommends ACP and a student is interested in honors. So this is going to look a little different in each discipline and each subject. And so really the first step is always to talk to the teacher. We do not have an override process or an appeal process. People like throw those words out. This really is a conversation with a school teacher to really figure out what is best for a student. And like I said, often what we will do is if a teacher feels like they just need to see some more data, they might have a student be placed on that watch list to think about like, okay, let's look at data in the spring so we can make adjustments between March and June. And that is very common. And then if a student really wants to try the higher level work, then they have that opportunity to show what they're able to do. But like I said, it'll look a little different in each discipline. And so that's why it's really important, if you have questions about the course recommendations, you really always start with the classroom teacher. Folks sometimes email me, folks email the department head right away. And our Newton North kind of will say it over and over and over again, is start with the teacher. And then if you feel like you need additional information, the next step would be to talk to the department head or talk to the school counselor and the dean, case manager. If your student has an IEP, those are all folks that can help you making sure that we get the right process. Todd, what about prerequisites? Question here
that's
about,
an interesting one.
Yeah.
Because I think it's a somewhat specific to the course answer to answer completely truly, but it is certainly possible. We have classes, I'm thinking like let's take theater as an example, where we have an acting 1 class and an acting 2 class, and you have to take acting 1 before acting 2. So it's conceivable that you could sign up for both. But the honest answer is we don't choose where those classes fit into the schedule until we see the big picture of registrations. So, there's like no guarantee that 1 and 2 might not run, concurrently in the same semester. So it's certainly possible. But it's hard to give an exact answer whether it would actually work or not. Most people do the sequential stuff kind of year by year, but it's certainly possible. It's just impossible to say for sure whether it would work.
And if, if a student has a course that they're taking quarter 4 this year, so we're not in quarter 4 yet, and they want to take the course that they need to take for next year, I would say check in with the department head. Because that Q4 teacher probably, doesn't have the information necessary to put in the recommendation. But I think in most cases, it would either be Todd or science and engineering, I think would be the two places where you might have a quarter class that then needs to build into next year. Counselors are also really good at getting that information if you need it. We do some cleanup during the summer. That's one of the things we actually look at is like, we try to look at every kid's schedule multiple times between June and September. And we'll look to see like, oh, this kid has robotics 2 before they have robotics 1. That's not a good idea. So we do try to do that cleanup as much as we can if it pops up. But like Todd said, there's no guarantee that it's going to work to take those sequential classes in the same school year. But we can definitely make sure that your student can get recommended from one year to the next. There are a couple of questions about our non-NPS families. So what the meeting with the school counselor looks at is that when you go online to register, you're going to submit your transcripts, report cards from your current school. Any information that you have from your current school gets uploaded into this process called Registration Gateway. And then that information is shared with our department heads. And so the department heads then can use that information to see if they need further information from you to make a course recommendation, or if they need a writing sample, or we often do placement tests in math. In world language, they have a Google form that you fill out to say, what your experience with the language has been, and then to kind of schedule an interview basically with one of our world language teachers so they can help place you. So the process is very fluid. It depends a lot on whether you're coming from a school that we know well. For example, we get a group of students from Fessenden every year, right? Fessenden only goes through 9th grade. So we get a group of students from Fessenden every year. We know the courses, we know what the report card looks like. So that's different than when we have students coming from schools out of state, around the world, where we may not have information. But that process is also fluid. We gather as much as we can during the Zoom with the school counselor, with the student, with the family. And then there's communication if we need additional information to make placements. So that's kind of a process that depends student by student. But that's what it looks like on our side. It is really important, really, really, really important that students and families who are doing those Zoom meetings with school counselors have looked at and read opportunities before the Zoom. Our school counselors, only set aside a certain amount of time for each of these Zoom meetings. So it's important that you're familiar with our course catalog, with our graduation requirements, with the electives, so that we have information. If for say, you're a student coming in from a private school and you're interested in auditioning for a music group, Todd, what would the process be?
I'd say just reach out to me, easy to find online, and then we'll connect you with the proper teacher. And any questions like that, anything that is like very kind of specific, just email me and we'll take care of it, get you connected in the right place.
And just so folks know, like we register upwards of 100 to 150 transfer students every year. This year it was probably higher, including students in all grades. We got like 10 transfer seniors this year, which is unheard of in my time here. But we definitely, work with each student and each family to make sure that we can make the process work for them and get the courses they need and all those pieces. So please don't worry about it. We get a lot of experience doing it because we're a large school and folks move to Newton, which is great. Oh, opportunities. So the course catalog is electronic. It's a PDF online. There's a question about getting a paper copy. We actually only print paper copies for our 8th graders. And those are like a 9th grade version trimmed down that's sent to the middle schools. But everybody else, we ask to use the PDF copy. And that's because we actually make edits. I was actually working on an edit today. So it allows us to make corrections or edits as necessary. But it also, those books, they cost a lot of money to print in a school our size. And so we've made the decision that it's really something that's better done electronically.
Amy, there was an AP over honors question. I don't know.
So that's a good question. At North, we consider AP courses and honors courses to be the same curriculum level. In fact, on your transcript in the column that says curriculum level, kind of where it is in the course title, an AP course will say honors because that's really the level of the course. There are a few places at North, and only a few, where both an AP course and an honors course are offered. So they are AP Physics and Honors Physics in senior year. One is a calculus-based physics course and one is a not calculus-based physics course. So they're completely different, and colleges do know the difference between the calculus-based and the non-calculus-based. The other major places are English and history in junior and senior year, where we offer, for example, AP US history. We offer American Studies at the honors level for the US history version. So again, those courses are fairly different. We're not offering kind of the exact same course, and the same in English. We offer in 11th grade, we offer AP Language, which is a course that focuses on nonfiction, is the AP course that's offered in 11th grade, as opposed to American Studies honors. So those courses are all really different. And so I don't know that colleges are looking for one or the other. I think colleges, if you go on a college tour, will tell you they want you to take the most challenging course load you can take. They're going to tell you they want to see lots of AP courses. And at the same time, if you looked at the data that Principal Turner and Ms. Strauss from South presented to school committee this week, our students do extraordinarily well in the college process with a very varied transcript of different kinds of courses. I had a meeting with a student this fall who was upset that he didn't get all the AP courses he wanted in junior year. And in fact, he's a fabulous jazz musician in Todd's music program. And we talked about the fact that this was actually an opportunity for him to spend more time doing jazz and really widening his experience in our honors jazz program. And that, from the college perspective, could be more powerful than the other extra AP on the transcript. And so it's, a lot of it has to do with how the information is presented to colleges, but our students are doing extraordinarily well while taking advantage of the breadth of courses that we offer here at North. I always share examples. It's not just honors versus AP. We offer organic chemistry to seniors. It's a class that I'm really proud of. I was the department head when we added it. And reason we offer it is because organic chemistry is offered as a weed out class in most pre-med programs. And we felt like if we could offer a strong foundation, we could help students have that entry point, this equity piece of an entry point into pre-med programs. And, it's not an honors course. It's a course that's open to all of our students. And it's giving students something that not most high schools don't offer organic chemistry. And I would say having organic chemistry on your high school transcript probably looks pretty awesome. As I was a physics major in college, I did not take organic chemistry. I avoided it at all costs because it was a weed out class for pre-med students. So I do think, this honors versus AP thing, I really encourage students and families to think about, how am I representing my full experience at Newton North, and how am I taking advantage of everything we have to offer? I also encourage students and families to read about our SEAL program. The SEALs are things that we put on the transcript to demonstrate depth of learning and application. And we have new SEALs in fine and performing arts and in applied STEM that we are launching this spring. And so it's really exciting that information has been shared with junior students and families. And that's another way that we really work to demonstrate the depth of application of knowledge that our students have that may not simply be represented by those two little AP letters on the transcript. Todd?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. We've in fine and performing arts, we've awarded or recognized 5 students so far, current seniors, with SEALs in art, music, and theater. And there's a number of juniors who are prepping along that way. So it is, and it's a great way to showcase a student who is given such a significant piece to the school, and both receive from the school and given back, and demonstrate beyond just taking a list of classes. So it's great.
The information on the seals is in opportunities. There's also a seals page on the Newton North website that has a lot more information than is printed in opportunities. And it has, some of the applications. I think there's some videos from some students who have done them in the past on some of our seals that have been around for longer. The history of the seals is that the seal by literacy is now a state seal. We had the seal by literacy here in Newton before the state of Massachusetts did. We kind of were leading the charge. We then added the seal of civic action and seal of social justice. The state of California actually has those seals as well. Massachusetts hasn't quite jumped on that yet, but we've really looked at ways to really demonstrate the examples of where our students are really showing their learning and applying their learning. And Principal Turner likes to share the example of the student who spends 16 hours a week building sets, running the lights and the sound and all of the applied learning that takes place in our theater program. And yet on their transcript, it might just say technical theater. And the seal for theater really gives students that opportunity to show the depth of their learning, that they have learned so much more by working in that program. Let's see the question that we usually get, which is the question around how many honors classes should my student take? Which is great that we're not getting that question, but I'm going to head it off because we always get that question. And it's, the course catalog says that our recommendation is no more than 3 honors courses. I will say that with a caveat that I would say, if your student is taking honors culinary major 3, that's different than taking AP US history and AP biology and AP psychology, which are all like serious reading courses where you're doing a ton of reading. So really trying to think about the balance of courses and the balance in a student's schedule. Our recommendation is no more than 3. The documentation that we send to colleges with transcripts tells colleges that is our recommendation of no more than 3 per year. And you will, if your student is recommended for more than 3 honors classes, you will receive an email from me on the 15th that asks you to really just take a moment and think about it. We don't have a rule saying you can't do it. We have plenty of students who do take more than 3. We just want students and families to make those choices consciously, because as I said, those decisions by March 30th are huge for our staffing and budgeting. And sometimes when I go through the data, there may be a student and it'll look like they've been recommended for 9 honors classes, which isn't really possible to fit in our schedule. And sometimes it's because the student is recommended for a whole slew of advanced honors, jazz, and advanced, I don't know, some other singing group, and, a lot of things that may or may not fit in their schedule and top of everything else. So we just want students and families to take a look and really make conscious choices. That's all we're asking. We also ask school counselors to follow up with students and families. And we know that sometimes students are their worst enemy in this place. And so school counselors and parents can really work together with students to find that right balance for their course load. I don't see, questions about vocational electives. So our Chapter 74 programs that are full Chapter 74 programs are carpentry, graphics, culinary, and drafting, and early childhood and care. And then we have a non-Chapter 74 program in TV. We closed down our design program last year, or kind of into this year. That was a part of our budget cuts last year, though the district is now looking at what our next Chapter 74 program should be, to add back a Chapter 74 program. So remember, our career and technical education programs are NPS programs across the district, not just at North, and whether or not we should add a Chapter 74 program at South is a question. We do offer electives in business. Those are, we have the business department, which is 2 teachers. They kind of work alongside career and technical education. Courses like accounting, money matters, international law, marketing management. They run our school store. So those are all pieces. And so all that information on all those career and technical education and business courses are in the course catalog. We haven't talked much about our technology engineering program tonight. It's another kind of hidden gem here at North, kind of hidden down by the loading dock. But our technology engineering program now officially is within the science department, because that's what how the state recognizes it, but has a wide range of courses that are definitely open to all students. When we were speaking earlier about how we make those elective programs open to all students, it's one of the things that makes me most excited about our engineering program, and that we do have students who are going from our engineering program on to MIT, and we do have students who are going through our engineering program and going on to a technical school, or going out into the workforce, or going out to do an apprenticeship. And we really do have that full range of students in our engineering program, and find a way to meet every student's needs in those courses, with the varied projects and differentiation that happens in all of those courses. So if your student is somebody who likes to do a lot of hands-on things, I would definitely encourage you to think about ways to find some of those courses in their schedule. It's also one of the things that's really unique about North, that we learned when we were building this new master schedule that we currently have, is that our courses come in what I call different bite sizes, right? We have courses that meet our current schedule is we have courses that meet for 1 quarter, courses that meet for 1 semester, and courses that meet for the full year. Because pre-COVID and with our old schedule, we had classes that met twice a week for 1 semester, twice a week for the full year, 4 times a week for 1 semester, 4 times a week for the full year. So we had those 4 different bite sizes, and we really needed to figure out how to bring those bite sizes into this new schedule. And what you'll see if you look at other high schools is that they don't have that varied bite size, which means they don't have the opportunity to mix and match. And when Todd was saying, try something that you haven't tried before, I do think that the fact that we have so many different quarter and semester courses in fine and performing arts, business, and technology engineering allows students to do some of that tasting. You might go from 1 semester of robotics to the next semester of music tech. You might throw some ceramics in there, but it really does give students an opportunity to taste what we have to offer before diving too deeply. And realizing that we really are a school, that they can try something new, and that's really exciting. And I think the varied bite sizes really helps with that. I think we've answered all the questions, Todd. I think we're doing good.
There we go.
Before we log off for tonight, does anyone have any other questions? You want to throw in the Q&A there? I would say, as always, if you have questions about process, please feel free to reach out to me or a school counselor. If you have questions about particular courses, please feel free to reach out to a department head. If you have questions about a course that your student is being recommended for, please reach out to the teacher. And big picture, we love this place. We love everything that we offer. I think you heard that from Todd at the beginning, that it's such a rich and exciting place to work. I always now get to put on my parent hat as the parent of an 8th grader, and watching her try to make some decisions about what courses she's going to take next year. And it just makes you so excited for everything that the school has to offer in the full range of our elective opportunities, alongside amazing academics and places where we've kind of tried to expand and be on the cutting edge. We didn't talk tonight about some of the newer courses like data science, where we've tried to look at where are our kids heading and what do we need to offer. So lots of exciting opportunities here at North for your kids. Patty or Jacqueline or Karen, anything you want to wrap up with?
No, not for me. Just thank you for taking the time to do this presentation and answer people's questions. And I appreciate it.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was very informative. Always is. I always learn something new.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye all.
And I'll upload the recording tonight and then send the YouTube link to y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thanks.